What is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and today we are back in Forza Horizon 2 taking a look at the new Lexus RCF from the new DLC pack. Now, we're going to do basically the same kind of test that we did with the Ferrari 458 Speciale, whereas we're going to fit this thing with a race exhaust, and that's it. We're going to just leave it, we're going to fit it with a race exhaust, and then we're going to test it. I've never driven this car before. That's the way I like to do these tests, because I feel like it gives the most pure opinions of the car if it's my first impressions of it. So we've got this nice dark blue, we've got a red, we've got this really nice aggressive orange. I really like that. I may actually end up going with that. And we've got, you know, your generic kind of black and then silverish kind of gray colors, and then your white, obviously. So what I think I might do is actually go with this really aggressive orange. I think that looks amazing, actually. I think that looks great. So, and this car, whereas I felt like I kind of wanted to leave the 458 stock for a while, the 458 Speciale kind of stock for a while, this car I can see myself doing a ton of builds to. I'm definitely going to do a drift build on this in the future. Obviously, like I said, this one's just going to be fitting it with a race exhaust and just testing it from there in its stock form, but we will definitely be doing a drift build of the RCF later on in the future.
How can I help?
Now, let's go ahead and get it fitted with the race exhaust, and that adds, what does it add? 21 horsepower. So again, not too much of a difference over stock. Now, I'm expecting this thing to be all about getting sideways. Just tons of oversteer everywhere. Now, I really like the interior, actually. Now that I've just seen it, I really like the interior. It's very, I mean, obviously it's very, I wouldn't say it's business-like, but it's definitely nice and sophisticated. It's Lexus-like. I mean, on the outside, it's extremely aggressive, but on the inside, I think it's very Lexus-like. It reminds me of the ISF, obviously, I mean, as it would. But let's go ahead and hear what it sounds like real quick. Sounds really good, in my opinion. I mean, it's kind of this low, burbly V8 sound. It's definitely extremely different than the V8 in the 458 Speciale, but I think the biggest thing that I noticed, though, about the sound in this car is some people have said it sounds subdued. I don't think it sounds subdued, but I do think it sounds sophisticated. It's not, you know, overly in your face like, say, a C7 Z06 would be. Now, before we take this thing pretty much just drifting all over the place, I do want to try launching it and see what happens. Or seeing what happens. Let's see. Probably 3,500. It's not bad. It really is not bad. And it's actually not that hard to launch either. Especially for what it is. You know, a larger rear-wheel drive, high-ish horsepower coupe. You know, it didn't give me tons of ridiculous wheel spin, but, I mean, it didn't bog down either. So it gave me a really nice launch, and I kind of guessed correctly with the 3,500 RPM. I think it was just kind of a good range for the car. But enough driving around. Let's just drift this thing, because that's what I said I was going to do with it. And, hi. Okay. Well, maybe we didn't judge that quite properly. I just got to remember it doesn't quite hook up the same way going sideways than that 458 does. Oh, I like the balance of it, though. In stock form, it's got a nice balance to it. It's very, very, very willing to, thanks, Z. No, it's very willing to get into an oversteer slide. It's very, very nicely responsive to e-brake use, actually. And I kind of like the way they stacked the exhaust on top, the exhausts on top of each other. It's a nice, nice little design cue. Now, let's see if we can get this corner right this time. There we go. Not too bad. Not perfect, but not too bad. And yes, while it's not quite the best car to drift in stock form, I can absolutely see this thing being a monster if you were to build it up. Maybe add a little bit more horsepower, do a little bit to the looks, like get rid of the hideous stock wheels, the absolutely hideous stock wheels. I think you could definitely have a really beastly car here. And the funny thing, it's funny that we see a Jaguar XKRS up in front of us, because that's what this car reminds me of most, is the Jaguar XKR. I'm not sure quite why. Maybe it's the sound, maybe it's the way it drives, maybe it's the way it looks. but I'm constantly getting a Jaguar XKR type feeling from this car. That's just what it feels like to me. It feels very XKR-ish. Definitely a lot more XKR-ish than say a Camaro or a Mustang 5.0 GT or anything like that. It's definitely more of a GT car than it is a muscle car. It's got some muscle car aspects to it, but it's still way more of a proper GT car than it is a muscle car for sure. And in being in being a rear-wheel drive GT car, it does love to get sideways. And it's surprisingly accurate too. It's really easy to hold a specific line. I mean, if that's the line you want to hold, then, you know, just make sure your steering inputs are correct, and it'll hold it. I feel myself kind of always hunting for a gear that kind of isn't there, though, in this car. Like, somewhere between second and third gear that it's like a spot in the power band that I'm wanting, but not quite getting. You could fix that with a little bit more power, I'm sure, but, oh, iTransit van. Yeah, I kind of wanted to avoid him, but sadly it didn't work out that way. And I love the little G meter on the dash, though. I just now realized that. Look at that. I'm just gonna, like, look at that G meter right now. Like, see if I give it a little bit of gas around this corner. You can see it moving. You can see the G meter moving. That's awesome. That is awesome. That level of detail is ridiculous. Give you guys some exterior camera. I know a lot of you guys like the exterior camera, and some of you guys like the interior camera, so I try to switch between the two as much as possible, because I prefer the interior camera, but then again, like I said, I know a lot of people prefer the exterior camera. I grew up with the exterior camera in older arcade racing games. I mean, I'm very used to using the exterior camera, but once I started using the interior camera, I was kind of hooked, because that just felt way more realistic to me, and I felt like I could make a lot more accurate corrections to the car just while driving. I just felt like the interior view really worked better for me. But for some people, that's the absolute opposite. I know some people that hate doing the interior view and that love the third person. So it's all down to a matter of personal taste. It really, really is when it comes down to that. But see what I mean? How second gear is sometimes... What? I meant to shift, not rewind. Sorry about that, guys. That is not what I meant to do at all. But, I mean, like I said, as you can see, second gear is really high, but then third gear is kind of low, so you sometimes find yourself hunting for that other area that's, like, not there. It's weird in this car. And again, you can fix that with changing the gearing. You can fix that with power. You can fix that with pretty much anything you want, honestly. And since it does have a little bit of weight it can throw around, it's very good at weight transferring into corners. It's nice because it's very predictable. You know that weight's going to shift, and you know that with the direction that it's going to shift as well. And if you know the direction it's going to shift as well as when it's going to shift, then you're good to go as far as knowing when to catch this thing, knowing when to use a dab of brakes, knowing when to use a little bit of power. It's a really easy car to get familiar with. It's not snappy, it's not jumpy, it doesn't come out of nowhere and surprise you, which, I mean, is kind of the way you would expect with a big, naturally aspirated V8, but, I mean, and yes, there are some turbocharged cars that are really predictable, but there are some that come on, like, immediately. There's a very snappy power band, and this almost doesn't have any of that. It's very, like I said, very linear, and got a really nice power delivery to it, and I don't know about you guys, but for some reason, the back end especially, somehow, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the FRS and BRZ. There's something about it that's a little bit FRS and BRZ-ish. I don't know, it's not quite, I mean, it doesn't obviously have any kind of carried over styling cues from the FRS or BRZ, but it's got something similar. You could tell that the designers must have looked at the FRS and BRZ at least a little bit when they were designing this car. They had to have. That wasn't quite as smooth as I wanted it to be. I wanted it to look all pro and, you know, yeah, jump drift. But no, it did not look pro whatsoever. We could do another attempt of that. We should. We should. Yes, we should do another attempt at that. Don't you... Wow. Okay, blocking my path. Appreciate it. Not the treat! Okay. Yeah, that didn't work. One more time. I promise we'll get this thing right. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard. Shouldn't be too hard at all. Aim for it. There we go. I wanted to literally, I actually wanted to do it right down the stairs. That is exactly what I wanted to do for that spot. But I definitely enjoyed testing this car out. I think it's got a lot of potential, especially for a drift car, or to be a drift car. I'm definitely doing a drift build of this in the future, and we are absolutely we're going to get rid of those stock wheels immediately because they are hideous, again, in my opinion. But if you guys enjoyed this test and enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave me a like. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought of it. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Talk to you guys later.